Hey everybody, Friday afternoon here, thank goodness. And today's call is about science curriculum. And we're going to share a little bit about what we've been using and talk questions and answers and see what you guys need as we've been doing in the group the past couple days. So before we do that, we will pray. And I am on a St. Anne kick this week because St. Anne is one of my homeschooling mentors since she was the mother of Mary. Kind of appropriate. So we'll pray the prayer to St. Anne. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glorious St. Anne, filled with compassion for those who invoke thee, and with love for those who suffer, heavily laden with the weight of my troubles, I cast myself at thy feet, and humbly beg of thee to take the present affair which I recommend to thee under thy special protection. Vouchsafe to recommend it to thy daughter, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and lay it before the throne of Jesus, so that he may bring it to a happy issue. Cease not to intercede for me until my request is granted. Above all, obtain for me the grace of one day beholding my God face to face, and with thee and Mary and all the saints, praising and blessing him for all eternity. Good Saint Anne, mother of her who is our life, our sweetness, and our hope, pray to her for us and obtain our request. Amen. Saint Anne, pray for us. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, science. Science can be lots of fun, but it's also one of those kind of it's like in between the extras and the core, right? So it can be left behind. It can feel kind of like a burden and a weight, even if you love it, because it's not the reading and the writing and the math and the religion, but it's also not like art and music, which are wonderful, but science. So let's just let those who came to share what you guys use. And it sounds like our oldest on the call is kind of in like the 4th, 5th grade range, maybe 6th if we look at abilities. So we'll kind of target to that. But if you have other ideas for older, we can mention those for those who might watch the recording. Okay. Selena, do you want to start? Oh. Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to focus on my 2 younger ones today, my kindergartner and my 2nd grader. We follow the Mater Amabilis literature list, and there are some books in there that are great for kindergartners. My favorite that we're going to restart this year is the Jim Wynorski series called Crinkle Root. We have the first book at home, and we'll read it with my kindergartner. And I follow the short lesson thought process, so we'll sit down and maybe read this for 20 minutes, maybe. Whatever my son is willing to read, but the illustrations are fun, and so they really do draw on the child. And then our library has the rest of the series, so we'll check one out. We'll read it for 20 minutes twice a week, and it really reinforces what I love is nature study, especially this time of year. From February till maybe end of June, we do a lot of nature walks, a lot of hiking in Texas. The weather's perfect. I didn't do it much when they were younger. I wish I had. And so we're planning to restart that with a kindergartner and do morning nature walks, especially in the summer, just to get their energy out. My other author I like for the young children age is Gail Gibbons. This is one of her books that we have. We check them out from the library, whatever my kids are interested in. If they see something they want to know about on the nature walk, oh, I like that flower, we'll check out her flowers books. Oh, the sun's shining today, we'll check out her weather sunshine books. They're fun to read. They're well illustrated. I guess I should open that one and show you guys. And she makes sure to have more picture and minimal text. So she's great for that 2nd grade and younger age. If science is important to you and you want to do it, Gail Gibbons is a great author for it. For my 2nd grader, she is following the Barbara Taylor series called Young Discover. This is Weather and Climate is one of her books this year. Her book last year was Rivers and Oceans. We do a science co-op with our city. They're once a month for 5 months from October to February. And these books really reinforce the experiments that they do. It's a lot of water, weather, nature study work, they have some programs for the older kids that follows finding math and nature and a whole other stuff I don't know anything about, but they do experiments with it. And I try to find literature from our library to reinforce it. The other series I love for a second grader, maybe a first grader, if they want to learn to read cursive or they like illustrations, is the nature study books by Diane Aston and Sylvia Long. This is one of them. It's called A Beetle is Shy. The illustrations are beautiful. They're so pretty. She has a whole series. There's a geology series called A Rock is Lively. A bird series called A Nest is Noisy. A butterfly series called A Butterfly is Patient, or a book. And then a plant one called A Seed is Sleepy. And then I usually do the egg one afterwards. An egg is quiet. We follow the egg is quiet after a nest is noisy, or before a nest is noisy. The reason I like these books is because my children could not draw from nature. It was a stumbling block for them. So nature journaling was difficult, but they would find these books at the library and it's already drawn for them as realistic as possible, so they can therefore draw from these books. And it was less overwhelming to find something they love. Maybe it's a butterfly, maybe it was a bug, and I find it in these books and we draw it. The Seed is Sleepy, it does have some Texas plants and it has Texas mountain laurel, so that's why we like that one. But all the books in the back have a nice spread of seeds. They have a nice spread of bugs, so your kids can practice the nature journaling without having to be in nature. Especially for us in Texas, it gets very hot from July up until almost October here in Austin. So nature journaling isn't fun when everyone's sweaty and angry. But this gave us a way for it to be fun. We do our walk in the morning, come back indoors and do our journaling. They were beautiful. So we checked them out of the library first. Our library had them. Some libraries will order books for you if they don't have them on hand. And then we slowly bought them. They were gifts for different times, Easter basket gifts, Christmas gifts. So that's all I got.
Yay, I love it. Thanks for sharing. Those books are lovely. I agree. That's the way to do science before it's really, 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 really important.
Mm-hmm. And they do the Diane Aston books. Part of it is written in cursive, so they can learn to read in cursive at the 3rd and 4th grade level.
Bonus. Super. Thank you for sharing, Selena. All right, Amy, what you got for us? You're sitting in front of your bookshelves.
I just moved upstairs to make it easier. I didn't realize until I came up here that we actually use a lot of different things for science, so I'll try to go kind of fast. I really like the series from CHC, which is Catholic Heritage Curriculum for grades like 1 through 6 even. The elementary one looks like this. And then the 6th grade one looks like this. I was really impressed with the 6th grade book. They did a really good job on it. They cover a variety of things. So each of the books covers like a life science or biology and a physics and a chemistry. They cover different things. 2nd grade, I think, is like simple machines, marine life. I don't remember what else. But they cover a bunch of different things. And then to supplement that, because CHC, it's an easy, simple one for mom, which is lovely. It's open and go. You read it. It gives you a list of stuff if you want to do experiments, but you don't have to do them, and the science program is still fine. But to supplement that, we often do these things called lap books. And there's a place called heartofachild.com that I buy them from. And this is I like lap books for getting everybody together to do them. The little kids can color, the big kids can write in the information, and we can all glue them together when we're done. And I have a couple that the kids did over, like here's one of the first ones we did on space. And then you open it up and it shows just a bunch of the different things we learned about space. And so over a quick project, this probably took several weeks to do, but you can just kind of get an idea of what it looks like when they're done. And it just supplements what we're already doing with the textbook. Tops books, these are fun too, especially when your kids get to like 4th, 5th, 6th grade, because It's basically a book of experiments. And my experiment kit had a blast doing these. You can buy the supply kit from Tops. They'll send it to you, so it has all the supplies you need. A lot of them are super simple things like paper clips and masking tape and string. So you can do it yourself, but sometimes it's just easier to have them send it to you. If you want to do it yourself, they tell you what the list is, so it's super easy. Oh, and for books, just fun extra books to have. This one, The Storybook of Science by a French guy whose name I'm probably going to butcher and say Fabre, is lovely. It's just a little story. This guy is telling his niece and nephews about things in science, and they're just lovely little stories. And then the Nature Anatomy books by Julia Rothman, I think. Yeah. They're just beautiful. It's kind of like what Selena was saying about it was really hard for my kids to draw things from nature, but this kind of broke it down for them. And this is really cool because the books break it down and they show you, like in a flower, this is the stem, this is the petal, this is the pistil, and all those things. And it's easier for your kids to label their nature drawings when they do them.
What level are those best for?
Honestly, all my kids love them. Even the big
okay.
kids look at them. I mean, it's just a fun little book to look at. And the drawings inside, let me see. I don't know if you can see this.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what they look like. See how like the artichoke is labeled with all the different pieces and stuff? That's how they look like inside. So it helps them break down their nature drawings too.
Very cool.
I think that's it for through middle school. After high school, I don't know what to tell you.
I know, we're still sorting through that, right?
Right.
Yeah, are you guys still using Mystery Science? Or have?
Oh, yes.
Do you want to mention that?
Yes. MysteryScience.com is wonderful and fabulous and excellent and awesome and all the things that you need to make it fun for your kids and not have to really do much at all. It's great. You click the thing. It's set up in units if you pay for it. So there's usually 3 to 6 lessons per unit. It's separated by age level, but honestly, I've had kids from 4 to 12 doing it. It says K through 5, but you could totally easily fudge it for 6th or 7th grade. And my kids do stuff together. They have a blast. It's super easy experiments you can do with stuff at home, and it covers biology and chemistry and physics and all kind. It's just got everything, and it's so easy for mom. I just click print on like 6 pages and say, here you go, watch the video, and I can go disappear and do something else. It's great.
Awesome. Yes, Amy taught me about Mystery Science, so tell everybody. It's so easy.
Yes.
Super.
Mystery Science is actually free for the month, or you can get a free month subscription. Or
you can get a free year. You can get a free year if you sign up. Usually they start at the beginning of the academic year. I haven't seen them run out of free subscriptions yet. However, the free subscription does not let you have everything they have.
Got it.
So
my kids' school had said that we should sign up.
Yeah. So it's an easy one to do. The free stuff is totally fine. This year I did end up purchasing it for my daughter because that was like, she did one every single week, and I wanted to have like complete units for her to do instead of just like 1 or 2 per thing. They run a homeschool scale. It just ended, and it ends up being $50 for the year versus like the 70 or 80 they usually charge. But they might get another one in the summer. Who knows?
Yeah, and I've been really inconsistent with using when I had the free subscription and debating paying for it. But what we have been very consistent, because my kids beg for it every week, is during non-COVID time, he releases a free video every week. It's like a short video lesson that takes like 5 minutes. And it's just been really good. It's entertaining. It's usually science related, but it asks a question. It's questions from elementary school kids. And then it answers it with video and pictures and interesting information. And
in a lab. I mean, it basically sets up how you would do a lab. It presents a question. It baby steps you through it. Like why do you think this happens, or what do you think will happen? So it kind of trains them to think of a hypothesis as they're going through the experiment. So it's really good baby stepping into like lab science they'd be doing in upper levels.
Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. Okay. What did my younger kids do? We've done just different things. Mostly we focus on nature study until they get to really 3rd or 4th grade here. We're just going outside, looking at the things, looking things up, reading the stories. One year I was organized, and I had like monthly themes, and we had I think Elizabeth Foss has this on her website with book baskets where every month was a different, like September was apples. So she had a whole bunch of books on apples, and they would talk about an apple tree and seeds and how it, you know, I did that 1 year, and I've been homeschooling 13 years. So, but yeah, so yeah, you too. But so we've done that. And I do use some of the Mother Mobilis books. We really like the Thornton Burgess books. He has a bird book and an animal book that are beautiful stories, kind of like Amy was talking about the Storybook of Science. Beautiful stories that teach you about these animals and about these birds and the different types. And there's people online that have come up with these wonderful, amazing unit studies out of them. And I just like to read it and talk about it and find the bird in our backyard. That's my style. But I really like the Burgess books. Nature Study Baskets, Burgess books. I didn't pull any of these books because I honestly don't know where they are because we're not using all of them. I have used the CHC that Amy showed. And I agree, it's awesome. It's open and go. The kids love it. It's very simple. You can choose to do the experiments or not. So I have used those from time to time. And then we do like reading aloud the, what is the series called? It's by Apologia, and it's called Exploring Creation with Astronomy. It's for elementary school kids. It is a young earth Protestant worldview. So I like reading it aloud so that I can just kind of modify if there's anything too wonky. But my kids really like, because it goes really in depth into each area. And so we read that aloud, kind of starting 3rd or 4th grade. And there's astronomy, botany, sea animals, land animals, flying creatures, 5 or 6 of them. Anyway. Oh, and human anatomy is beyond that. And then they have a chemistry and physics for middle school. So I like using those. I'm not in a very formal way because I like supplementing with other just read aloud books, but I have used those with most of the kids here and there. Like I don't think any one kid has done every single book, but that's given me some consistency. I love the program Exploring Nature with Young Children. It is very well done. I have never been able to implement it living in Texas because it relies so heavily on the seasons. So if you live in a place with 4 seasons, I really recommend from like preschool to 3rd or 4th grade, Exploring Nature with Young Children. Selena's laughing at me so hard. I'm like, Charlotte, there's no, like, I can't do, no. Animals don't hibernate here really the same way. It's just awkward. What else have I used for science? I think that's kind of my elementary, the extent of what we've done. As I said, we've supplemented with mystery science here and there, and just different books that we find. And then things get tricky for me because, like I said, science is my weakness. And so I try to find something that's like, oh, you know, here you go learn that, because I don't get that. I can read stories about science, that I can do. That's comfortable, but the really experiments and all that kind of stuff, it's like, unless it's independent, it's really not happening here. So that's what we do, those main things. Do you guys have other things that we didn't mention or questions? I mean, honestly, like we get into kind of the middle school years and I have never stuck with one thing. So I've done homeschool connections classes. I've picked up, there's some books by Tyner, is it? The story of something, and it's like a whole series on, it goes more into depth into medicine and astronomy and all these things, just whatever books that that you can get. Mandy asks, are the lesson plans necessary for the CHC set? For science, no. The student books are open, they're work texts, so they're open and go. Selena or Amy, you wanna?
Yeah. They're not necessary. My daughter basically does a chapter every 2 or 3 weeks. If she wants to do the experiments, we'll do them. Sometimes she's not interested in the experiment, and I'm not going to force them. The 4th grade was all anatomy, so we checked out books from the library that had better illustrations that were not in the CHC text. And maybe our library is different. No one ever puts those books on hold. No one asked for them, so we had them for 5 weeks. We read the lesson, we used the library book, and we did an illustration. The 3rd grade one was a little bit more experiment heavy, but they were household items, and they were easy. She's doing the 5th grade one now, and she really doesn't need lesson plans. She just reads half her chapter one day, the other half the next day. We'll go through the questions together. We might do the test, we might not. It just depends her interest level of that science subject within science. So there was the 5th grade one. It's kind of overview like the 6th grade one. So she'll start the 6th grade one in the fall.
Cool.
Just for comparison, the public school that my son was at, which was very well regarded in Tennessee, got open book tests for science because she didn't feel that they needed to have that stuff memorized. If they could find it in the book, it was good enough.
I had open book exams in my science college courses. So
anyway, I was surprised, and so I was like, well, guess that means homeschooling will be a breeze.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can expose them to, the ideas, expose them to it, discuss it, make them excited and aware about the world around them. But do they have to memorize all that? I don't know. Some kids want to memorize the elements and fun things like that, but some are like, just get to know it. Identifying birds and insects and snakes and those kinds of things is way more fun anyway. I mean, because you're figuring, there's a visual there. And I forgot to mention another thing I rely on for science quite a bit is Magic School Bus. No shame. We have like all the old falling apart paperback picture books and chapter books, because they have like really easy chapter books. And I even am going to get to try their kits for the first time this summer. I'm going to use them for fun this summer. Again, like I said, I don't do the experiments in the younger grades. I just don't. But someone who was giving them away free. So I have all these kits that the Magic School Bus, and I know you can still order those. They have like a whole monthly experiment kit. When I did do, the only times I've successfully done like experiments and things is I've done kits, like Amy was mentioning. There's a place called Home Learning Tools, I think it is. I'll have to put it on the resource list. But they make, whoever it is, they make science kits with all the supplies for popular homeschool curricula. So like, and it includes the paper clips and the masking tape, and like all you need to bring are scissors. And then there's like a balloon and a needle and all the little things that you would have to collect in a box for $40 for the year. That's good for me. So those are great resources to just simplify mom's life. What else? I looked into this year quite a bit in doing some of those online lab things where you virtually do a lab, and it was like a starting 6th grade thing, and they looked really cool. I just decided not to invest in it. But some of the more prominent curriculum providers, I think Pearson was the one I was looking at, has like, you can have a subscription and they have homeschool like pricing, and then your kids log on and like do the dissection or do the like study and pour the chemicals in and then see the reaction like on the computer. So that's kind of cool too, and an option you could research if you really want your kids to see some of that stuff. But there's also YouTube videos where someone else does it, so that's free. Awesome. What other questions do you guys have about science or things that you've thought of that we didn't mention?
Well, I'm signed up. I don't know how they'll be, but we signed up for a couple of these free varsity tutor sessions they have one that's next week on science and one that's with, I don't know how you say her real name, Blossom, Malum, whatever it is. Anyway, on neuroscience, and one of them is an astronaut. And so we're signed up for those next week. So if I like them, I'll put it back into the curriculum post thing, but I'm sure that they'll charge for them next year. This is the free stuff they're doing for the COVID stuff. So
yeah, I would say there's so many amazing things out there when it comes to most subjects, but science seems especially, because it's one of those subject areas that you can convey through presentation or online, or
well, I'm sure that who's the astronomer guy that has that whole PBS series that's big. I'm sure that would be cool. The Bill Nye stuff, I'm sure you can find online. So.
Yep, all kinds of, some of my kids watch some of the old Bill Nye stuff. It's entertaining, good. He got a little kooky now, but he's entertaining, fun stuff. Yeah. So science is, I will add, I said kind of at the beginning, science is one of those things that I don't stress about. I kind of stress about it in high school because then I have to actually teach, like they have to actually have the credit. But
high school seems to me something that you might need to do a co-op to get so that you actually get the hands-on lab time, because I'm not going to have I guess you could do some dissections. Maybe they can send you some.
Yeah,
but how do you
send you a kit.
Dissect a pig's heart when you're at home?
We did owl pellets. That was so cool one time. We dissected owl
like
pellets.
their poops?
No, the pellets are the things they regurgitate.
Okay.
So it's all the little bones and feathers and fur, and that was kind of crazy. But yeah, they'll send you the kits if you want. Co-ops are good options. My plan this summer was to send my kids to these one-day intensives. They have a couple places around here that do them, and then there's a guy that travels the country and actually does them for, I think it's exclusively high school. He might do middle school, and it's so he'll do like 2 days, and it's all the biology labs you would need, or like 2 days of chemistry labs, and you just do all the labs and then it's done. So if you needed the in-person, but I've talked to other families who've said that doing online labs has been sufficient, and no college or anybody has ever been like, it's not real, unless they're like really going heavy duty science. It should be the mole guy. So
that's probably true, because once you're in college is when I did both. I also was a bio major, so we talked last night. I was a history biology major.
Ooh.
But I didn't do a lot of dissecting in high school. We just did some boring little things, but this cool stuff was all in college. When you would make the pig's lungs breathe and actually see it, or we had frogs that we did epinephrine on and killed them and then brought them back to life, and anyway, and so all the ones that I remember were being really cool were all college labs, not high school ones. But for the high school ones, we did do quite a bit of chemistry experiments, which I guess you could do at home, but I'm not sure that I don't really know if I want them doing that at my kitchen counters. And
well, there's kitchen chemistry, and you can start some of those, like you said, at the more basic level, maybe obviously not the dangerous chemicals. There's chemistry roadshows that travel around too, at like libraries and things, and you can go to those and see. We did that. That was cool. Since we can't do the intensive labs, we're going to do online with Homeschool Connections, because they do labs. It's a demonstration more than the kids actually doing it, of course, but they're still getting, a lot of real live labs, your lab partners are doing it anyway, and you're just watching. So that's what we're going to sub with, but yeah.
We did dissections in high school. I did anatomy and physiology, and we dissected a cat completely and like separated all the veins and arteries and organs. Deep breaths, Jenny. And but the option that we have here for us to do for high school science is to do dual enrollment with our community colleges, and then they would have the labs there. It's included in our taxes, so it comes out of our tax dollars. We don't have to pay for the class, because if they go to high school, they wouldn't pay for the class. It's a dual enrollment. And you just pay for the books, and we can get those secondhand from other students, because most of the students in our area go to ACC. We did do some quite fun experiments in the house, maybe blew things up, but it's fun for me. I love science, and part of that is because I had a really good science teacher who taught from a creation aspect. And so she was Jewish, a devout Jewish lady, and she taught from that creation aspect and honored science as a part of the creation. And that gave me a love of science. So it gave me a love of science for my children. We did, do anatomy last year. I loved it. I am planning to enroll my daughter in some dual credit courses in the community college for science, because I loved it. Maybe didn't just the first year. She doesn't have to do it the next year if she hates it. But science is my passion. I loved it. We have been doing some science experiments at home that are fun, that aren't too dangerous. And there's lots of books that at-home science experiments you can get at half price, or at your library, that can teach physics and chemistry. So with
common household items, so it's not as complicated.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do right now to clean stuff is to put baking soda and vinegar, and they see the acid in the base explode, and they're like, oh, it's clean. How does that happen? And it's like, well, that acid takes away all the grime. Like, oh, that's cool. And so there's stuff like that just to teach them that chemistry is useful in the home, especially with baking. We use a lot of chemistry with baking. So that's another way we teach. Sorry.
No, that's great. I'm listening for mine too. Like, what's going on over there? Yeah. No, that's an excellent example. There was one of the homeschool groups we belonged to once did a science fair too for homeschoolers. And it was just, anybody could enter and you'd bring your stuff up and like some dads would judge. And it was still a way to like, kind of have that experience of running a whole experiment through. So that's something to look into. I know.
Yeah, our Nature Science Center has that for 3rd to 5th graders. They do, during their 5 months of science experiments, they put together a science expo and have a science fair as homeschoolers. And they partner with one of the local schools. So they don't know that they're homeschoolers. They think they're one of the elementary kids.
Cool. Yeah, we,
in Austin, I don't know anything like that in Dallas or Fort Worth.
When we were in San Antonio, we took advantage of some of the nature classes that were at some of the nature centers, and they were fantastic because they were these retired, elderly people teaching. And they were master naturalists and they knew what everything was, and they would teach us something and then we would walk through the trails and see the things. And that was probably the best year we had, beneficial for my kids. Those classes were really affordable. We moved up here and the nature center classes are really expensive, so it depends on where you are. I know friends who do homeschool classes at the zoo and you're learning zoology. I mean, there's stuff out there, aquariums and so forth, that are options for moms who need to outsource that or just want their kids to have more hands-on.
And our local aquarium, the Austin Aquarium, takes volunteers at age 14, and they can learn nature care, feeding, sleeping, cleaning, all the things of all these different animals and all their little habitats that they have for them. So that's what we're doing for my daughter when she's 14. It's like 10 minutes from the house. It'll be great.
That's fabulous.
It's outside the box of teacher at the front teaching a lesson. It's learned very differently as a homeschooler, but I feel like for us, since it is so on hands-on and it is so family oriented, it's much more fun and they retain it so much better. I mean, when Harvey hit, we had done a whole unit on hurricanes, tornadoes, and weather. And my mom was so confused. She didn't understand why Houston was flooding. And my daughter said, well, Nana, it's a category 5. It has a lot of energy. And all that energy is just turning into water and pouring it on Houston. I'm like, thank you.
Good job.
That was awesome. But it was just the books we had read, the videos we had watched, all coming together, that the weather unit she did at the Nature Science Center, it all pulled together. And I think she was 8, so she was a little bit older. But
yes, and I think we were talking in the group with one mom, but I think lots of us could say that any experience raising animals or growing a garden of any kind is science, because I know at our elementary schools here, they all have a garden, a community garden, a school garden now, and everybody that's part of the science. And so if they're helping rake leaves and weeding the backyard, I mean, you can turn that into a learning experience. I'm not saying that's sufficient, that like raking leaves is sufficient for science, but you can definitely turn that into an experience where they can learn things. So it's very good. Awesome. Well, unless anybody else has other questions or comments, I thought maybe we'd take a little break here since I'm going to do math again at 4. And I know some of you will pop out and watch the recording, but we're glad to have you. Any other final closing comments, thoughts? Awesome. Well, thank you for coming. Like I said, we'll start with math at 4 o'clock here in about 15 minutes. You're welcome to stay on or pop off and come back, whichever works for you. Bye, everybody.